Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to an episode of Pat Taste Performance. Today in the drive where we're going to be working on Mandingo. Okay, listen, another video for another day. I ended up installing a Badlands winch from Harbor Freight. And I want to take it another step further and install it in my opinion, the correct way. So I know when I was watching a lot of install videos, people just like to wire it to like a battery and keep it simple. And a lot of the guys just like to pull the battery out, charge it in the house, and then bring it back out and hook it up to the truck. I think that's that's not, you know, for me, because for what I do, you know, you never know where you are and a good deal is gonna pop up and you just need to go out there, grab and snag it. So I decided to take it a next step further, and I am actually going to wire it to the truck. And at this point, the truck will feed the winch at all times. And I'm also going to be adding a layer of protection because it's not going to be used all the time. And it's going to stop from drawing from the truck when it's not being used. And I'll explain why. All right, so these are some of the, well, actually, this is everything I'm going to be using besides a few miscellaneous connectors. All of this was purchased from Amazon, and links to buy all of this will be in the description. So the plan is, all right, this is your zero ground wire that I'm going to be installing from the truck. And I got to figure out where I want to route it and mount it. And then it's going to be going up through the truck. And come on. And it's going to come up right underneath the seat here. There is already a pre-drilled hole, so I'm going to follow it up that hole, and that's where I am going to be installing a fuse box. So power is going to run into this fuse box, and then this here is what is going to feed all the power sources if I want to add other things. The only thing I don't like, and I guess I'll have the missus make labels for me, is that there's no labels for what to go where. So these are all 60 amp fuses. These can all be changed to what you need. Now, what the unique thing about this is that if I already have train horns installed in this truck, right? And my train horns are, I ran a power wire from the fuse box all the way through the entire truck. Now, if I would have done this mod first, I could have ran my power wire right there. So it would have been a shorter run, less wire, less material used, less chance of rub throughs, and I get a better consistent voltage supply, because in theory, the longer your wire is ran from the battery source to where you need it, it gets less voltage. Now the train horns do work, so I'm not complaining. So I'm not sure if I'm going to shorten that up, but I do plan on running some other fixtures here. Like I know I definitely for sure have a plan out that it's going to be winch, and then I want to do some other lights, definitely rock lights for sure. And that'll be for another video for another day. Now, what I'm also going to do, is I explained why, is that a circuit breaker, 60 amps, okay? Now, the reason why I'm adding a circuit breaker, for another reason, and that circuit breaker is going to be between the fuse block and here. So it's going to be power wire coming in, fuse block, lift gate here, and then out to the lift gate, out to the winch. And the reason why is just another layer of protection. And number two, the winch I got from Harbor Freight is Bluetooth. So if it's Bluetooth, that winch will always be searching for a signal at all times, causing a draw. Now that's something I do not want. So when I'm not using it, my plan is to just pop the breaker, see, brake connection, so it can't make any draws. And then when I need to use it, there we go. Now we're encased. Also, this is also another layer of protection. God forbid I'm hauling something a little bit heavy, or it's just a pain in the you-know-what to get up. This breaker is gonna pop, protecting the system, and it's gonna protect the fuse as well. So all I need to do is pop the breaker back in, let it cool down, pop the breaker back in, and we are back in business, compared to blowing a fuse. And if I don't have the tools and another fuse in hand, I cannot get the winch working again. All right, so I found a hole within the cab and I stuck my knife through it, and this is where it is, basically underneath the cab of the truck, and that's where I'm going to run my wire from and up into here. And then here is the underneath view. It's right here next to my fan, but this is on the back of the cab. Alrighty, so the wire is through. So what I did was I just laid this flat against here to see the depth, because I don't want any wires exposed. And then I ended up cutting it with my pocket knife. So I just made, you know, a cut this way all the way around, and then it made a cut down the middle, and then you could just pull it out. And then here, because this is 0 gauge, there's a collar in here that you have to take out. And you could get 3 sources of power wire. I'm just, for right now, I'm going to keep this here. I'm only going to have 1 source of 0 gauge coming out of here for now. All right, so now we're at the Harbor Freight winch, and this is the factory circuit breaker that we're going to have in. We're going to be replacing this with the switch, so we're going to have to undo these 4 Phillips screws and extract this wire. So with the cover off, this is what you're going to get, and we're going to have to undo this from the truck, and this is going to be the wire that's going to be ran to the fuse panel that we have inside the truck right there. Now we got it all out. Now this is going to have to run to the fuse panel. Just one of my biggest pet peeves, guys. This isn't weather tight or weather sealed. So this isn't going to be a problem because it's going to be inside the truck. But if you're running wires, and this is going to be another video for another day, cut this off and get ones with the heat shrink butt connectors. I'll put a link in the description to where you can buy an entire kit that I use. So that red wire that's going to be feeding the fuse box, that's going to feed the winch, isn't long enough. So we're going to have to undo this box, these 4 screws right here. And then we're going to have to make our own to the correct length that we need. Very simple. So this is crazy. So I popped it off, and this is the wire that we need to replace now. This box is supposed to be weather tight, and look what they have here. This is heat shrinked. So why couldn't they just spend the extra 50 cents, maybe even less, while being generous, and put heat shrink connectors on the rest of the body? So we're going to take this out and run new wire. Alrighty, so new wire crimped on and heat shrinked. At the end of the video, I'll just do a quick little demo on how you guys could do this, and then you could apply it to the rest of the wires that you ran. Alrighty, so here we go. We have our terminal installed. On the positive side, note that when you get these terminals, it's going to be positive and negative. I ordered them in pairs because technically these are 2 different sizes. Anyway, again, this is ran all the way down through the truck, up and around. All right, and then here is our battery. Now this comes out, this is what I reuse this from Harbor Freight. Battery to our circuit breaker, and then this comes out, and this is what actually feeds the winch. This goes out to the winch. I have to heat shrink this. Don't get mad. Then I ran this back down through that hole, through the truck and up here. Now this truck has been hooly-goolied, so this was a hole right here. I put that right there temporarily. I ordered something. It hasn't come in the mail yet, but the ground can be anywhere now. So you see how I have the ground right there, just for testing purposes. So look, now we have our winch, and we can go, what do we have to go in? So now we can put ground anywhere we want because now it's physically attached to the truck. So anywhere on this truck is ground, and that winch is wired, is installed to the truck itself. So now let's check to see if we're correct. Let's pop our breaker. Now there should be no connection. And now look what happens when we squeeze. We have nothing. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today in the driveway. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, comment on the video. Criticisms are opened. Like I said, I'm not too keen with electrical work, but this is something I'm pretty comfortable with, and I've seen this done before on different applications. The only thing I'm waiting on is a box for all the wiring. I know the wiring from Harbor Freight is supposed to be weatherproof, but it's not. So believe it or not, I ordered a Pelican case. And once the Pelican case comes in, then I can definitely fine tune the wiring, as well as sourcing a grommet, right? Don't be running wires with no grommets, because that's how stuff rubs through, and you're opening yourself up to a couple of other issues down the line, shorting, potential fire. Just run grommets, all right? Or do something. Don't be running wires without any grommets or any protection sheathing. The only thing I'm not sure about is, I have to sit on this, is this positive wire here. It does have a coating on it, but do I want to run, you know, like a mesh sheathing over it? That's something I'll think about later down the line. I definitely know for sure, you know, once I wrap up, once I decide what to do with the train horns, you know, all of this is going to be wrapped in loom like this here. All right, guys, it is grommet day. We're going to be finishing up the professional install on the winch and other stuff, the fuse panel on Mandingo. So I just tried running. Remember that hole, I eagle-eyed it and I kind of measured it to be 1 inch. So I figured, let's try and see if this will work, but maybe even go a step bigger. Remember, I did not cut that hole. That hole was already there. So that's why I wanted a universal 1 inch, maybe 1 1/8. But we're supposed to fit 1 inch gauge wire. Plus I think that's, what is that, 12 or 14? So I'm going to try and just mock this up inside the hole. And then from there, I'll start making my adjustments. It seems that this is pretty simple. Is this pre-cut? No, I don't think so. So what's going to happen is, right, we are going to figure out what size hole that is. And then from there, we could just put a slit in here and then just pull it through. But, you know, it's rubber. I mean, the quality, you can't beat the price. I mean, it's like, you know, for what they're charging, you know, you never know. You know, I'm going to start growing electrically and try and do more. So I'm going to try and do more. Like, I know I got to do some work on the Honda, okay? This is where the grommets are going to come in. All right, so pretty simple. This is an 1 1/8 grommet. Remember, I don't know what size hole was originally drilled. I'm guessing 1 inch, but 1 1/8 is fine. Remember, these grommets are split. So here's the big one for reference. See that path of light? This is going to be on the inside of the cab. This is going to be on the outside. In between is where it grabs. So that's pretty good. So I am going to take a pocket knife. I'll offer you guys a little shop object would do. And I am just going to poke a hole in the ground. Like so. And then from there, we could just feed the wire. See how it's all the way through? Now, should I do it in an X pattern? Why not? So let's do it in an X pattern. Let's follow those lines in the grommet. Come on. So that's what you did. So I stuck my knife in these grooves in this fashion right there. And then now we are going to run it through. runs all the way underneath the frame, comes up this, I don't know if this hole is factory or not, but this was already pre-drilled. So I took it, just one less hole. There's a grommet in here, one wire in, and then this is the wire that comes out of that fuse panel into the back towards the winch. Here is the seat right there. Pretty shitty view, but I left this loose for now because now I have space for activities. And basically this is, you know, coming in and out. Do I want to do the train horns? And I want to do a few other things, but as far as the stereo goes now it's going to be so much easier to run. I'm not sure if I want to run something behind the seats or something underneath, but I put it on a breaker just so I could disconnect power whenever I want. All right, guys, here's just a simple diagram that I drew. And you could screenshot this or replicate this on your own. This is going to be your battery. Obviously, your battery is going to be negative and positive, but we're only focusing on the positive. You're going to be running your 0 gauge wire up to that fuse panel. Now, I recommend at least a 6 because you could always grow into something. Don't try and get a single or a 2. Try and get a 6 at a minimum. And then from there, you're going to run a 10 gauge wire or bigger. The smaller the number, the bigger the gauge is. So there's nothing wrong with going a little bit bigger. Up into your 60 amp breaker. And then from out to your breaker goes to the winch, and that's the same thing. If you want to run 10 gauge wire or bigger as well. Now also, guys, don't forget, if you don't have any holes and you're drilling holes into your truck or your cab, make sure when you're done drilling to deburr them and seal them with paint so they don't rust. Oh, you're not in it, you're not.